Dawn claxons pierce the recycled air of Hab Block Tertius 9, and Marta Voss reaches for the sealed dispenser beside her children's sleeping alcoves. In Medicae Station Tertius 9, the air carries the metallic tang of disinfectant and machine oil, a sterile cathedral where healing has been redefined as compliance. Her hands shake, not from cold, but from knowledge she wishes she could forget. The nutri-paste emerges in measured portions as a servo skull drifts down, auspex bead blinking red. It recites the dosing rite in mechanical high Gothic. Marta responds, voice small beneath the vaulted ceiling. By remedy we endure. The skull approves with a synthetic chime. 2 portions extrude onto stamped tin spoons, pale amber for 8-year-old Jorik, deeper bronze for 12-year-old Sarah. Each child extends their wrist to the biometric scanner. The device chirps approval, cross-referencing genetic markers against vast imperial databases before calculating today's precise chemical cocktail. The paste prevents scurvy and bone-wasting disease, genuine medical benefits that justify the daily ritual. But Marta has read the ingredient manifest citizens aren't supposed to see. She knows the trace compounds will render her children compliant and eager for military service by adolescence, their developing minds sculpted into tools of the state. She whispers the mandatory benediction as she administers each portion. By the Emperor's grace, may this nourishment strengthen your flesh and purify your spirit. The words taste like ash. This is sanctified dosing, a ritual as common as breathing, imbuing mundane pharmaceuticals with theological weight to ensure unquestioning acceptance. On the dosing counter sits the Medicae Codex, brass-cornered and chained, its vellum pages thick with bureaucratic seals. The rubric lies open to Edict 47/Sigma, an inquisitorial mandate stamped in red wax, requiring specific neurochemical compounds in all civilian nutrition supplements. The text speaks of therapeutic compliance and holistic preparation for imperial service. But Marta has learned to read between the sanctified lines. Across the station's marble floor, she glimpses Commissar Vex's family at their own dosing station. Their children receive pure white paste. No amber tint, no chemical tang. Different treatments for different classes. The Commissar's son will grow up with an unmodified mind, capable of independent thought and strategic planning. Her children will develop into perfect soldiers, brave, loyal, and untroubled by moral complexity. Jorik swallows his dose without complaint, already showing early signs of chemical conditioning. He trusts completely, questions nothing, accepts imperial doctrine with neurochemically enhanced enthusiasm. Sarah still resists sometimes, her older mind fighting the chemical tide, but each day brings deeper submission. The ritual complete, Marta seals the dispenser and returns it to sanctified storage. Tomorrow will bring the same ceremony, the same choices that aren't really choices. She could refuse, watch her children develop nutritional deficiencies while their minds remain their own, or continue poisoning them with medicine they need to survive. This is how healing works in the 41st millennium. The flesh is accounted, not comforted. Treatment becomes rationed function. Every cure carries a hidden cost. Every treatment serves institutional needs over individual healing. We will follow this chain from ritual to rulebook, from dispenser to doctrine, from trembling hands to the offices that scripted them. At first light in the Adeptus Mechanicus Biologist Chapel, Apothecary Militant Zerion kneels before a vox altar crowned with brass skulls. His augmetic voice joins 27 acolytes in mechanical harmony. The flesh is weak. The datum is pure. Suffering purifies the circuit. Each word carries doctrinal weight, transforming medicine from healing art into resource optimization. Around them, anatomical diagrams flicker on brass walls, human forms reduced to production metrics, hearts measured by output capacity, minds valued by compliance potential. This is therapeutic compliance doctrine. the philosophical foundation that reframes the human body as imperial resource requiring optimization, not healing. Zerion's servo skull projects actuarial tables as he explains the core principle to wide-eyed recruits. We do not cure, his modulated voice intones. We calibrate. Every organ serves the Emperor's will. Our purpose is maintaining these instruments for optimal imperial output. The Medicae Codex lies open before them, its vellum pages thick with cost-benefit matrices. Each patient becomes a production unit subjected to rigorous analysis, treatment costs, weighed against projected utility. A factory worker with lung disease receives bronchial dilators sufficient to maintain quota, not cure. A guardsman with combat trauma gets neural suppressants that eliminate nightmares while preserving tactical reflexes. The Codex calculates with mechanical precision: preserve, maintain, or comfort. We follow Zerion through morning rounds where decisions become numbers. In the triage chamber, cogitators hum and spit red glyph verdicts, while an automancer feeds patient data through logic rights. Life-saving care is approved when utility exceeds cost curves. Everyone else receives stabilization protocols designed to return them to quota or allow quiet death. Zerion marks a woman for comfort protocol with genuine tenderness. His catechisms have taught him that optimizing human resources represents the highest form of medical care. The training regimen emphasizes loyalty screening over therapeutic knowledge. Recruits memorize dosage matrices and productivity indices before learning to set bones. The instructor's pointer taps through charts of graduated dosing, a staircase regime, scaling compounds by rank and productivity band. Enlisted, receive. Sedative-augmented analgesics. Overseers get pain control without cognitive dampeners. Strategists receive pure therapies. The distinction is administrative, not medical. Behind the altar stands the productivity tithe calculator, a massive cogitator processing citizen utility scores. Employment records, genetic markers, psychological profiles, and loyalty assessments feed algorithms that determine medical priority. The machine displays current sector statistics. 47% receive full treatment, 31% maintenance protocols, 22% comfort measures only. Between lectures, Zerion addresses recruits from his lectern of brass and bone. He describes the human frame as a platform for imperial labor, the mind as firmware requiring patches. Optimization is mercy in aggregate, he explains, quoting Edict 47/Sigma, to justify additives that align mood and suppress doubt. When a recruit asks about side effects, Zerion's response is immediate. To deviate is to malfunction. In the corner ward, a janitor coughs blood and pleads for stronger medication he received last season. His productivity score has slipped. Zerion offers thinner doses and prayer, genuinely believing he spares the man from wasteful expenditure. In the allocation sanctum of Medicae Station Tertius 9, Adept Scribe Ral operates the Flesh Ledger, a massive cogitator terminal whose brass keys click beneath his augmetic fingers. Data streams cascade across jade screens, productivity indices, genetic markers, loyalty assessments, replacement costs. Each citizen becomes a calculation, their flesh weighed against imperial need. The morning's first case materializes on his slate with bureaucratic precision. Commissar Vex arrives via Medicae transport, his left hand wrapped in pristine bandages. Training accident. 3 fingers crushed during weapon inspection. The injury is significant, but treatable. Ral's stylus hovers over the authorization pad as the Flesh Ledger processes Vex's profile. Preservation tier flashes in gold runes. The treatment protocol unfolds like scripture: gene therapy, cellular regeneration matrices, neural pathway restoration. Cost: equivalent to a factory worker's lifetime earnings. Authorization: immediate. 2 hours later, foundry worker Hadric Cole extends his infected arm across Ral's examination table. The wound festers, a tool slip from line 12, treatable with antibiotics and tissue grafts. Ral inputs Cole's citizen number, watching amber calculations flicker. Age 37. Declining productivity curve. Genetic markers suggest arthritis onset within standard 5 years. The ledger's verdict appears in rust-red glyphs. Maintenance protocol approved. Amputation recommended. Ral explains the decision with genuine compassion, his training having convinced him this represents optimal resource stewardship. Cole nods through tears, conditioned, since childhood, to accept Imperial wisdom. The infected limb will be removed, the wound sealed, and Cole reassigned to single-arm duties. His sacrifice serves the greater calculus. This hierarchy operates through sacred mathematics, where human suffering becomes quantified and allocated with mechanical precision. The three-tier system functions with theological certainty. Preservation treatments for essential personnel include gene therapy, organ replacement, and neural enhancement. Medicine designed to optimize rather than merely maintain. Maintenance protocols for productive citizens provide sufficient care to preserve function without exceeding cost-benefit thresholds. Comfort measures for the expendable offer palliative care designed to ease suffering while preserving resources for the valuable. Between allocations, Ral observes the dispensary cues. Different colors mark different fates. White vials for the preserved, amber compounds for the maintained, rust-red doses for the comforted. Each medication requires specific rituals, the litany of emulsion, the ninefold Auspex blessing, prayer chants that unlock coded ampules. To untrained eyes, mere superstition. To the initiated, sophisticated control mechanisms where incense contains chelating aerosols and Auspex pings activate twin-chamber seals mixing carrier with payload only after authorization. Ral notices patterns in patient behavior. Citizens receiving regular treatment display remarkable consistency, enthusiasm for imperial doctrine, submission to authority, eagerness for assigned duties. Those who miss doses become irritable, questioning, prone to what records term biochemical conditioning disruption. The medications themselves appear standard, but their preparation involves ceremonial elements suggesting deeper purpose. Why do simple analgesics require consecration? What compounds hide within routine medications designed to heal? The Flesh Ledger continues its calculations as Ral seals daily reports with sanctified wax, documenting another successful allocation cycle, where healing serves power rather than mercy. The leaked documentation arrives as 3 blood-stained vellum sheets, smuggled from the biologist's archives by trembling hands. Molecular diagrams illuminate the pages like illuminated manuscripts, each compound blessed with high Gothic nomenclature that disguises its true purpose. Relief compound MK7, paired with somnolent beta. Broad-spectrum purgary 9, laced with lumen, 3 catecholamine modulators. Nutra-paste emulsions, enriched with pietas delta, synthetic oxytocin analogs. The marginalia, written in dried blood, names them truthfully. Behavioral adjuncts embedded within routine treatments. Former Magos biologist Lisa Cade meets us in a maintenance gallery beneath the Medicaid wards, her augmetic hood lowered, voice clipped by neural damage from her reassignment process. She had been tasked with reducing post-operative rebellion among penal laborers. Instead, she discovered a quieter horror. Compliance peaks 8 hours after dosing. She explains, displaying corrupted data slates. Plateaus for 16, collapses by 36 hours. Patients return seeking relief before physical pain returns. The architecture of control reveals itself through her research. Pain relievers carry somnolent beta to blunt ruminative thought and suppress dissent. Antibiotics include Lumen 3 to elevate authority salience while dampening oppositional reflexes. Nutritional supplements deliver pietas delta to magnify in-group bonding, family, unit, creed. while narrowing moral horizons to Imperial-approved parameters. The compounds follow strict hierarchical distribution. White vials run pure for preservation class personnel. Amber doses blend therapy with mild modulators. Rust-red suspensions add quietus. 1 beta blockers that flatten, affect, and eliminate questioning behavior. The Medicae Codex justifies this systematic deception through theological framework. Treat the flesh, align the spirit, harmonize the will, reads the rubric under Edict 47/Sigma. Training catechisms describe the additives as virtue potentiators, healing wounds while sealing minds against heretical influence. Even dispensing rituals serve pharmacological purpose. Incense contains chelating aerosols that prime mucosa for absorption, while auspex pings trigger microvalves in twin-chamber ampules, mixing inert carriers with active compounds only upon sanctioned blessing. CADE documents what follows when the system fails. Compliance discontinuation syndrome manifests within 24 hours of missed doses. Tremor, anhedonia, intrusive doubt. At 72 hours, aggression, panic attacks, and ideation, the Codex classifies as heretical thinking. Downregulated receptors, starved of pietas delta and lumen 3, demand chemical restoration. Patients mistake neurochemical withdrawal for spiritual corruption and seek absolution at dispensers. Where dependency exists, markets emerge. In underhive alcoves, rogue Medicae trade pure treatments, unmarked vials lacking behavioral modifiers priced at triple standard rations. Some contain authentic compounds synthesized from archived STC patterns. Others are poison. Clients whisper that the first clear breath after unmodified antibiotics feels like awakening from dreams before the psychological crash arrives. Weeks after our interview, Cade vanishes into servitor conversion. Her brilliant mind, once capable of molecular innovation, now scrubs surgical tiles with mechanical precision. The system calls this therapeutic correction. Purity leaves biochemical traces. Metabolite profiles shift when citizens avoid sanctioned treatments, and clinic thresholds monitor atmospheric chemistry for unsanctioned compounds. Medicae Record 47/Sigma Tertius. Subject classification KL 4471. Compliance discontinuation syndrome, Stage 4. Timeline, Day 18, post-cessation of sanctioned compounds. Symptoms progressed from initial euphoria through paranoid ideation to complete doctrinal inversion. Recommendation: emergency corrective dosing or penal reassignment. The clinical language masks human catastrophe with bureaucratic precision. The Kellum family disappeared from official records 42 days ago, their Medicae files marked with red notation, non-compliance suspected, therapeutic intervention required. We locate them in Underhive Level 7, huddled behind corroded atmospheric processors, attempting what underground networks term living clean. Their dosing dispensers have been turned to face the wall, a small act of defiance that triggers systematic collapse. Jorik Kellum speaks through withdrawal tremors, his voice hollow, where pietas delta once provided chemical certainty. The Emperor feels distant now, he whispers, clutching his wife Mira's shaking hand. Before, his presence filled every breath, every thought. Now there's only silence. Without daily neurochemical reinforcement, Imperial doctrine loses its emotional resonance, leaving behind raw awareness of their reality's horror. The dependency was engineered with deliberate precision. Biologists scheduling aligned dose intervals with receptor downregulation curves, ensuring psychological discomfort preceded physical pain. Day 7 brings violent mood swings as Lumen 3. Depletion strips authority of its chemical halo. Day 14 manifests as loss of faith, described in theological terms but rooted in dopamine cascade failure. Day 21. Complete breakdown as brains restructured by generational chemical intervention struggle to maintain baseline function. Their infant daughter provides the cruelest evidence of systematic conditioning. Born during withdrawal, she suffers pure birth syndrome, developmental complications arising when mothers lack neurochemical modulators their bodies adapted to require over generations. The child's nervous system, expecting chemical inputs that shaped human neurology, forms improper connections. Her seizures echo through metal corridors like accusations. In shadowed alcoves throughout the Underhive, rogue medics operate withdrawal clinics they call therapeutic mercy. Former apothecary Senna Vox treats patients with synthesized compounds designed to ease transition from chemical dependence. Her documentation reveals stark statistics. 12% achieve stable withdrawal after 6 months of suffering. 31% suffer permanent psychological damage. 57% return to sanctioned treatment voluntarily, begging for chemical absolution. The Kellam's attempt ends on day 28. Mira collapses from malnutrition while their daughter's seizures worsen beyond underground Medica-Ishi capabilities. Jorik carries his family back to Medicae Station, Tertius 9th, pleading for emergency intervention. The attending apothecary treats their return as spiritual victory, souls rescued from heretical influence and restored to imperial grace. Corrective dosing flows through amber tubes, thick, sweet, with manufactured relief. Within hours, psychological symptoms resolve. Jorik's paranoia fades, replaced by familiar certainty about imperial righteousness. Mira stops questioning orders and returns to dutiful compliance. Their daughter's convulsions cease as modified NutriPaste restores neurochemical balance engineered into her genetics. The system calls this therapeutic correction. The family calls it salvation. Both perspectives contain truth shaped by chemistry rather than choice. The clinic hides behind a dead atmospheric recycler on Underhive Level 7, its access hatch painted with soot to mimic decades of corrosion. Former apothecary Senna Vox keys a sequence into a cogitator older than the Hab block itself. Corroded grates slide back, releasing the sharp scent of boiled ethanol and rust. Inside, benches scavenged from defunct Manufactoria flank narrow aisles where brass aquilas have been turned face down. Shadow lamps cast spectrum-shifted light designed to confuse Imperial Auspex sweeps. Her network operates through cellular resistance structure learned from heretical movements, small, separate, deliberately forgetful by design. Coded language masks, medical terminology. Librarians are couriers. Prescriptions become marginalia. Clinics transform into reading rooms. Requests arrive as misquoted catechisms chalked onto bulkhead prayers. Payment flows through barter, filter mesh, industrial solvent, clean water. No operative knows more than 2 others. When sites burn, the network survives. Vox treats patients with pre-imperial protocols copied from damaged standard template fragments. Unmodified analgesics lacking somnolent beta. Narrow-spectrum antibiotics without lumen. 3 loyalty enhancers, nutrient emulsions free from pietas. Delta behavioral conditioning. She teaches breathing techniques to patients accustomed to chemical calm, uses distraction and heat therapy to ease withdrawal symptoms that sanctioned sedatives would mask. The work constitutes medical heresy, healing without altar or oath to Edict 47/Sigma. Success stories illuminate human potential freed from chemical constraint. Cogitator scribe Havel arrives with trembling hands that steady only after amber doses. Vox cross-tapers him to pure compounds, endures 3 nights of sweats and doctrinal collapse, keeps him talking when imperial certainty dissolves into silence. By day 12, his handwriting steadies. His productivity scores plummet as curiosity replaces compliance, but his humanity flourishes. Failures prove more instructive. Foundry worker Vara Thex stares at clear medication and retches before it touches her tongue. Years of biochemical conditioning have altered citizen physiology. bodies reject pure compounds as toxins. Her pulse spikes, pupils constrict, panic claws at her throat as neurochemistry interprets unmodified medicine as assault. She ransacks cabinets seeking rust-red suspensions, begging for compounds that restore familiar mental fog. Biochemistry has become liturgy. Deviation feels like sin because receptors demand sacrament. Counter-surveillance governs network survival. Activated charcoal bricks line ventilation systems, absorbing volatile markers that inquisitorial sniffers seek. Ion scrubbers hum beside entrances. Medications travel in sanctified sleeves, shaved from discarded preservation tier casings. Seals repressed with counterfeit rosettes. Sympathetic tech adepts script auspex loops replaying yesterday's atmospheric profiles across municipal monitors. Reading rooms rotate every 9 days. Equipment vanishes with them. Still, purity leaves biochemical fingerprints. Metabolite ratios shift when lumen-3 disappears from citizen breath samples. Water systems record anomalous draw patterns from solvent preparation. Liturgical calendars governing dosing cues document absences with mechanical attention. Room 9-null. Masquerades as a patient records archive, its brass filing cabinets concealing cogitator terminals that parse human chemistry into columns of suspicion. Interrogator Caney operates from this sanctified chamber beneath Medicei Station Tertius 9th, her augmetic fingers reviewing data streams that transform routine medical monitoring into comprehensive surveillance apparatus. Sweet incense breathes from corner sensors, not merely ritual, but instrument. Micronets suspended in the haze capture exhaled moisture, converting breath into biochemical intelligence. The purity protocols govern this systematic testing regime, designed to identify citizens whose metabolite profiles suggest exposure to unmodified treatments. Every clinic visit becomes liturgy of sampling. Finger pricks during benedictions of the Lancet measure blood chemistry. Communion cups analyze salivary markers. Confessional booths record speech patterns against baselines of loyal cadence. Servo skulls drift through dispensary queues, their auspex beads sampling exhalation for absent lumen-3 metabolites and missing pietas delta breakdown products. Embedded inquisitorial agents operate throughout the Medicae hierarchy under therapeutic credentials. Apothecary Interrogator Vex maintains perfect cover while documenting patient responses to modified compounds. When citizens display insufficient gratitude for treatment, question dosing schedules, or request specific formulations, she records these deviations in sealed reports marked with inquisitorial rosettes. Medical records become targeting maps, charting chemical intake against behavioral output with mechanical precision. Caney's morning dashboard displays sector-wide compliance matrices, green runes for chemical conformity, amber warnings for irregular patterns, red glyphs marking biochemical deviation. Today's anomalies paint concerning patterns across Underhive Level 7. Citizen 47. Gamma tertius exhibits elevated cortisol without corresponding somnolent beta markers. Worker KL 4471 shows dopamine signatures inconsistent with lumen-3 supplementation. Most damning. Atmospheric samples contain ethanol vapor matching pre-imperial synthesis rather than blessed distillation protocols. The investigation unfolds through algorithmic analysis, revealing behavioral clusters invisible to conscious observation. Citizens receiving pure treatments demonstrate productivity fluctuations, irregular sleep cycles, and questioning behaviors documented in workplace reports. Their social networks concentrate around specific geographic nodes. Their purchasing patterns shift toward black market supplements. The data web tightens with mechanical inevitability. Escalation thresholds govern response protocols with clinical precision. Individual non-compliance warrants enhanced monitoring. Cluster patterns suggesting organized resistance activate cell investigation procedures. Geographic concentration of biochemical anomalies triggers what sanitized documentation terms Therapeutic intervention. Coordinated operations designed to restore chemical compliance through systematic remedication. Current case parameters exceed critical thresholds. 17 confirmed deviants. Estimated network size 34 operatives. Projected contamination radius affecting 200 citizens. The algorithm recommends immediate therapeutic purge under Edict 47/Sigma authority. Corrective medication protocols await authorization. Concentrated doses designed to overwhelm receptor systems and restore chemical dependency through forced saturation. At 0400 hours, sirens braid with hymns as the klaxons announce not dawn, but medical emergency. Sector Gamma 7's atmospheric processors wheeze to silence while Medic-HE response teams deploy through arterial corridors, their white robes billowing behind servo-skull escorts. The official designation reads, Compliance Discontinuation Outbreak. Bureaucratic language masking systematic enforcement. Enforcer cordons seal perimeter access under banners proclaiming therapeutic intervention, while black-armored orderlies push carts of sealed ampules stamped with Edict 47/Sigma authorization. The operation unfolds with industrial precision that transforms civilian space into medical theater within 30 minutes. Emergency treatment facilities materialize in cleared HAB spaces, portable surgical tables flanked by IV stands, restraint harnesses gleaming under harsh lumens, cogitator terminals humming as they cross-reference citizen numbers against biochemical deviation reports. Interrogator Caney lifts her rosette while apothecary militant Zerion coordinates from a mobile command altar, his augmetic voice cutting through mounting chaos with clinical calm. At perimeter triage, wrists meet scanners and bracelets click home. Green for compliant, amber for irregular, red for non-compliant. Families split at tape lines while tech priests prime dosing engines, their piston hums keeping time with liturgical catechism. Servo skulls drift overhead with lumen candles and auspex beads, plotting pulse, pupil, and galvanic skin. Response on parchment screens while recording everything for inquisitorial review. The true horror reveals itself through willing submission. Citizens identified by purity protocols arrive voluntarily. Withdrawal symptoms have made independent thought unbearably painful, and they beg for chemical absolution. Former factory supervisor Miran Cole stumbles forward, hands shaking from Pietas Delta depletion. Please, he whispers to attending Medici. I can't stop thinking. Make it stop. Tears stream down his face as amber tubes feed concentrated compliance compounds directly into his bloodstream, his expression smoothing into manufactured peace as chemical certainty replaces doubt. Inside Theater 1, beds become conveyors where straps cinch and needles bite like benediction. The first patient, a machinist, thrashes as corrective medication floods his system. His heart stutters, surges, then stops. A purity stamp seals his toe while porters wheel him toward reclamation. Case designation. Therapeutic fatality. Former rogue Medici. Senna Vox writhes against sanctified restraints as concentrated lumen 3 courses through her veins, her brilliant mind dissolving under chemical assault. She screams medical terminology, molecular structures, synthesis pathways, treatment protocols, until compounds erase her expertise along with her defiance. Inquisitorial observers monitor from elevated platforms, their servo skulls recording vital signs and psychological responses for future optimization. Some patients die from chemical shock as bodies reject sudden compound saturation. Others experience complete personality dissolution, consciousness fragmenting under neurochemical bombardment, while EEG patterns flatten from chaotic spikes into docile waves. A 13-year-old girl stares at ceiling fixtures, reciting catechism until language empties. Her affect returns, but her self does not. The most disturbing cases involve voluntary return. A gaunt man bolts from his treatment table, rips lines from his arm, then halts mid-corridor and walks back. presenting his wrist without being asked. A mother arrives cradling a child born during withdrawal, pleading, "Make it quiet again, make the doubts stop." The syringes answer faster than liturgy, while Vox units whisper reassurance tracks. "You are safe, you are loyal, you are healed." By dawn, the operation concludes with mechanical efficiency. Dosing engines chug their final cycles while reclamation carts squeal toward disposal. 11 fatalities log as acceptable wastage, 42 transfer to ventilatory servitors, 212 receive discharge tags and stagger home glazed with relief. Auspex towers report metabolite conformity as priests chalk purity sigils above doorframes. Caney stamps the declaration in red wax, therapeutically stable. The purge ends as it began, with him and Siren braided, healing performed as obedience, compliance restored through systematic remedication that transforms resistance into grateful submission. Ward Atonement Theta occupies Medicae Station Tertius 9's eastern wing, its corridors bathed in amber-tinted lumens designed to promote chemical stability. Purge survivors shuffle between therapeutic sessions, their movements dampened by corrective compounds still circulating through bloodstreams. Apothecary Counselor Thane moves between cots with genuine compassion, her training having convinced her that exposure to pure medicine constitutes severe mental illness, requiring intensive intervention. Wall-mounted pick screens cycle through loyalty affirmations, while servo skulls dispense mild anxiolytics through aerosol prayer. The rehabilitation protocols operate with clinical precision. Blood chemistry, pupil reactivity, and speech patterns are measured against purity protocol baselines every 6 hours. Patients undergo cognitive restructuring sessions combining traditional counseling with microdosing regimens, Lumen 3 to rebuild dopamine pathways, Pietas Delta to enhance emotional resonance with Imperial doctrine, Somnolent Beta to dampen oppositional reflexes. Recovery questionnaires scored by Cogitator produce receptivity index ratings, scores below. 40 trigger-enhanced dosing and extended hymn cycles. Former factory supervisor Miran Cole sits across from Thane during morning evaluation, his eyes tracking slowly as neurochemical balance restores. "I remember being angry," he whispers, voice hollow with confusion. Angry at work quotas, at rationing, at the commissar's speeches. "Why would I feel that way?" Thane explains sympathetically how unmodified treatments poisoned his mind against imperial benevolence. The anger was artificial, neurochemical disruption masquerading as legitimate grievance. Independent thought has been reclassified in his mind as pathology. Group therapy sessions reveal systematic erasure of questioning behaviors. Subject, Gamma 7, R01, a former machinist, describes fragmented memories of his withdrawal period like fever dreams. He recalls questioning production schedules but cannot remember why efficiency seemed problematic. His recollections carry the distant quality of remembered madness, experiences alien to his chemically restored personality. Staff document this as value lability disorder, requiring ongoing treatment. Yet, disturbing observations complicate the narrative of pure control. Several patients exhibit respiratory improvements following corrective medication, their chronic coughs disappearing alongside questioning behaviors. Others show enhanced resistance to infections that previously required frequent treatment. Chemical analysis reveals imperial compounds include genuine therapeutic agents, antibiotics, immune boosters, respiratory enhancers, alongside behavioral modifiers. Atmospheric readings from outside the station register alarming contamination levels, industrial pollutants, biological agents, and chemical residues that would prove lethal to unprotected human systems. The same compounds ensuring chemical compliance also provide legitimate protection against poisoned air, contaminated water, and toxic food supplies. Environmental toxin titers spike with each shift change, without chelation, delivered through standard supplements. Lung tissue scars. Without endocrine buffers, adolescents crash into arrhythmia. The boundary between control and care blurs when survival depends on imperial intervention. Recovery becomes returning to breathing poison without complaint, but also breathing poison without dying. Patients file out grateful, calling it healing, their wrists stamped with purity sigils and return dates. The ward doors seal while metabolite monitors ping conformity. The atmospheric processing cathedral crowns Hive Tertius 9 like a brass monument to necessity, its plasma stacks breathing measured toxins into recycled air with mechanical devotion. Tech Adept Corvine operates the primary atmospheric mixer from a control throne wrapped in cables and prayer strips, his augmetic fingers dancing across brass keys that regulate planetary breathing. Sacred formulations flow through blessed pipelines. Oxygen enriched with hexox, 7 organofluorides, nitrogen laced with vanadium-based metabolic disruptors, trace aerosols including compound theta-7, that requires daily bronchial treatments to prevent lung scarring. The atmosphere itself has become medicine and poison. Environmental engineer Heydrich Voss discovered the pattern during routine maintenance cycles, his clearance granting access to archived schematics dating to imperial settlement. Original atmospheric processors produced clean air. Current configurations deliberately introduce respiratory irritants at 0.7 parts per million, harmless to infrastructure alloys, lethal to unprotected alveoli. Water reclamation systems add chelation agent MK3, creating mineral deficiencies that necessitate ongoing supplementation through loyalty-enhanced compounds. Even soil treatment protocols strip essential nutrients, replacing them with synthetic analogs available only through imperial dispensaries. The engineering creates elegant dependency cycles with mechanical precision. Citizens breathe poison but receive antidotes through routine medical care. They drink contaminated water but get chelation therapy disguised as health supplements. They consume nutritionally deficient VAT protein, but obtain vitamins through behavioral modification compounds. Genuine medical need interweaves with artificial dependency. Populations truly will die without imperial intervention, but the conditions requiring intervention were engineered by the Imperium itself. Sub-engine seer Mar Elian speaks softly in a pump gallery beneath the processors, her voice drowned by turbines. She audited processor throughput against morbidity curves and found alignment too perfect for coincidence. When she trialed a 10% reduction in hexox 7, infrastructure corrosion spiked, while hypoxia, deaths doubled as filtration systems failed. She restored standard dosing and watched mortality return to baseline. The calculation proved brutal. In systems that consume their own habitat, rebellion becomes indistinguishable from suffocation. Timing mechanisms govern dependency with clinical precision. Symptoms manifest within 72 hours of missed treatments. Respiratory distress from atmospheric toxins. Organ stress from chelation deficiency. Neurological dysfunction from nutritional gaps. The intervals drive citizens back to Medicaid stations, where chelatinoam and panimmune 12 flow alongside lumen 3 and pietas delta. Obedience and oxygen arrive in the same ampule. The modifications extend beyond individual worlds through standardized imperial protocols. Shipping manifests reveal identical atmospheric formulations, uniform water treatment procedures, and matching nutritional deficiencies across imperial space. The Imperium has engineered not merely dependent populations, but a dependent species. Humans whose biochemistry requires constant intervention for survival on worlds poisoned by design. Voss carries crushing knowledge that environmental restoration would require decades of atmospheric processing, water purification, and soil remediation. Citizens accustomed to modified air would suffocate in clean atmosphere, their bodies adapted to require compounds that healthy humans would reject. Revolution becomes genocide when survival depends on systematic poisoning disguised as protective care. The loop closes through industrial integration. Manufactories that synthesize atmospheric toxins also produce antidotes, turning planetary contamination into ledger-balanced industry. Graduated exposure maps onto social hierarchy. Underhives inhale heavier aerosol loads, requiring stronger chelators, and deeper behavioral modification to manage the psychological stress that chelation therapy unmasks. Sanctum Valens occupies 3 levels above the public wards, its corridors bathed in daylight-correct lumens and filtered air unmarked by incense haze. Here, high marshal staffers and administratum prefects recline beneath crystal hoods while pure therapies flow through gold-capped lines. No prayers, no auspex chimes, no ritual masking. Just medicine. Genuine healing stripped of behavioral modification. Life extension without loyalty enhancement, pain relief without cognitive dampening. Leaked procurement manifests map the deliberate separation with ledger precision. Supply line albus routes, compounds marked clinically inert adjuncts, none, and behavioral modulators, prohibited, alongside juvenate stocks, priority authorization. Parallel supply line amber lists identical base compounds plus lumen 3, pietas delta, and somnolent beta, packaging stamped for civilian distribution per edict 47/sigma. Both lines terminate at identical pharmaco-temple facilities. Same doors, 2 inventories, divergent destinies. Former apothecary servitor Kira Thiel operated both production systems during 12 years of service before demotion for excessive curiosity. Her sealed testimony documents systematic medical apartheid built into manufacturing protocols. Elite medications undergo blessed distillation through archaeotech apparatus. 17 purification stages ensuring therapeutic purity. Civilian compounds receive sanctification processes. 4 stages that introduce behavioral additives while maintaining basic efficacy. The same assembly line produces healing and control with mechanical efficiency. Comparative case studies reveal stark disparities. When Commissar Vex suffered combat injuries, he received pure regenerative compounds, surgical nano-repair, and unmodified pain management. Recovery time: 14 days with full cognitive function maintained. When Guardsman Kale sustained identical wounds, he received loyalty-enhanced healing compounds, behavioral stabilizers, and compliance-modified analgesics. Recovery time: 42 days with permanent personality alterations documented as therapeutic improvement. Production quotas expose the scale of engineered inequality. Elite formulations comprise less than 2% of pharmaceutical output, but consume 37% of pure raw materials. Quality control protocols differ dramatically. Elite compounds show 0.3% contamination versus 12.8% for mass-produced variants. The contamination isn't accidental. It's behavioral modification compounds working as designed. Access control operates through biomimetic locks, keyed to gene prints and rosette authorization. Elite dispensaries require retinal scanning and inquisitorial clearance codes. Their medications arrive in unmarked silver ampules, free from purity seals and loyalty stamps. Tracer metabolites in civilian bloodstreams flag scanners if pure compounds appear. Enforcers classify this as counterfeit purity. Environmental protection extends the privilege. Elite spires run closed-loop atmospheric systems, scrubbing Hexox 7 from intake while gardens under real sun lamps grow nutrient-complete foods. Strategic clarity exemptions doctrine provides institutional justification. Decision-class minds must remain unmodified lest governance suffer piety without prudence. The moral architecture proves meticulous. The many receive chemical harmony for faith and quota. The few receive chemical exemption for choice. It isn't hypocrisy, it's design. The system's horror lies not in malfunction, but in perfect operation. Imperial medical infrastructure functions exactly as intended, providing genuine healing to preserve valuable personnel, while using treatment as population control for expendable masses. The revelation reframes everything. The system isn't broken, it's working precisely as designed. The Medici Codex defines it as chronic care doctrine, sustain function via managed morbidity. In practice, this forges a new citizen archetype, the perpetual patient maintained. Incalculated illness that never fully heals, but never quite kills. They exist as perfect imperial subjects, dependent on the state for survival while remaining functional enough for labor quotas and military conscription. The Voss family genealogy spans 4 generations of progressive conditioning, each bloodline entry documenting systematic dependency with bureaucratic precision. Great-grandmother Sarah Voss entered the system during early Edict 47/Sigma implementation, her industrial lung scarring requiring weekly treatments that gradually expanded into daily respiratory support. Her body adapted to expect chemical intervention, creating baseline dependency where missed doses triggered genuine medical crisis. Grandmother Mira represented second-generation conditioning, born into atmospheric toxins requiring preventive treatment from infancy. Her immune system developed expecting daily chelation therapy, her neurochemistry shaped by routine Pietas delta exposure. She could function normally but never independently. Her physiology fundamentally altered to require continuous pharmaceutical maintenance for homeostasis. Mother Kala embodies third-generation integration, needing twice-daily compounds for basic cognitive function and respiratory stability. Her neural pathways formed around expected chemical inputs, making unmodified thought physically painful. Environmental toxins that would kill unprotected humans feel normal to her chemically buffered system, but withdrawal from those same protective compounds triggers organ failure within hours. 8-year-old Jorik represents 4th-generation perfection, the perpetual patient in its purest form. His nervous system developed expecting lumen 3 and Pietas delta, his lung tissue adapted to filter hex-ox-7 aerosols, his digestive tract designed to process loyalty-enhanced nutrition. He cannot survive 6 hours without amber nutri paste, his biochemistry demanding constant chemical maintenance as essential as oxygen or water. Psychological evaluation reveals profound ontological dependency. When asked to imagine unmedicated existence, Jorik becomes physically distressed, unable to form mental concepts of life without imperial medical support. His sister Sarah describes medicine as breathing and eating, fundamental processes rather than interventions. Their conditioning transcends chemical dependency, becoming existential dependency where alternatives to imperial care remain literally unthinkable. Generational progression demonstrates accelerating dependency curves with mechanical precision. Great-grandmother Sarah could survive weeks without treatment. Current-generation children exhibit withdrawal symptoms within hours. Projected 5th-generation models suggest complete biological integration, where imperial compounds become as physiologically essential as cellular respiration. This serves imperial strategic needs with elegant efficiency. Perpetual patients cannot rebel without condemning themselves to death. They cannot flee imperial space without abandoning life-sustaining treatments. They cannot conceive alternatives to imperial rule because their biochemistry makes imperial medical intervention synonymous with survival itself. Revolution becomes suicide when breathing requires state permission. Environmental integration completes the dependency cycle through inherited toxification. Citizens receive poisoned worlds alongside modified genetics, inheriting both environmental burden and chemical antidote through bloodlines shaped by centuries of systematic intervention. The system perpetuates itself through biological imperative, disguised as medical necessity. Dawn klaxons pierce the recycled air of Hab Block Tertius 9th, and Marta Voss reaches for the sealed dispenser beside her children's sleeping alcoves. The servo skull descends with mechanical precision, auspex bead blinking red as morning ritual begins. Amber paste for 8-year-old Jorik, bronze suspension for 12-year-old Sarah. The same ceremony that opened our investigation, but now we comprehend its full architectural horror. Her hands no longer shake. The tremor that once betrayed her knowledge has steadied into acceptance forged through systematic elimination of alternatives. She administers compounds she knows contain pietas. Delta behavioral modification, Lumen 3 loyalty enhancement, and somnolent beta cognitive dampening, alongside genuine nutrients her children require to survive, Hexox 7, atmospheric toxins, and chelation. Agent MK3 water contamination. The alternative isn't rebellion. It's watching them suffocate while their immune systems collapse from engineered deficiencies. This represents informed consent achieved through biological imperative. Marta understands the manipulation, but chooses chemical dependency because the Imperium has made survival synonymous with pharmaceutical submission. Her knowledge changes nothing about her choices. The system has created its own form of moral participation, where citizens willingly enable their control because refusal means death. Across Medicae Station Tertius 9th, thousands perform identical rituals with similar understanding. Commissar Vex administers pure white compounds to his family, while knowing masses receive modified versions. Factory supervisors distribute loyalty-enhanced supplements while recognizing their behavioral effects. Even apothecary militant Zerion consecrates civilian medications he knows alter minds alongside healing bodies. Each participant maintains the system through informed complicity rather than ignorant submission. The perpetual patient paradigm has achieved perfect stability through engineered necessity. Citizens cannot rebel without condemning themselves to death. They cannot escape Imperial space without abandoning treatments their genetics now require. They cannot conceive alternatives because 4 generations of conditioning have made Imperial medical intervention synonymous with existence itself. Between biometric scanning and benediction, Marta observes the dispensary's familiar choreography. Different colors marking different fates. White vials for preservation class personnel, amber compounds for productive citizens, rust-red doses for the expendable. She glimpsed the Sector Gamma 7 purge from her window. Citizens strapped to tables receiving corrective medication until resistance dissolved into grateful submission. She sealed the shutters and returned to quota duties. Jorik swallows without complaint, his 4th-generation neurochemistry shaped to expect chemical inputs as fundamental as oxygen. Sarah hesitates briefly, some fragment of unmodified thought surfacing, then accepts her dose with practiced resignation. Their bodies metabolize loyalty alongside nutrition, while atmospheric processors continue introducing toxins designed to require constant pharmaceutical intervention. Marta whispers the mandatory benediction. By the Emperor's grace, may this nourishment strengthen your flesh and purify your spirit. The words carry desperate weight, not theological doctrine but practical prayer. She asks forgiveness for poisoning her children while begging divine protection to preserve them through another day. The Emperor becomes both destroyer and savior, source of poison and antidote, delivered through identical amber spoons. The ritual completes with mechanical precision. Dispenser sealed, children escorted to quota lines. Prayer concluded. Tomorrow will bring identical ceremony, identical choices that aren't choices, identical acceptance of necessity disguised as care. The system perpetuates itself through biological imperative rather than ideological conviction. Her hands remain steady. The daily dose continues eternal.